Next week, we will hold our annual congregational meeting. We combine the meeting with worship. Hopefully, we do that to merge the things we do as a church with why we do them. It will happen at 10 o'clock a.m. and conclude at some point after that. Now, a lot of thought has gone into planning the annual meeting, worshipful work, as we call it. We trust. I wonder if we could turn the lights down just a smidge. It's a little bit tricky for me to read the teleprompter. Good, perfect, that's good. We tried this model last year. It worked very, very well. We were done in about an hour and 15 minutes, if you will remember. Next week, I would guess we'd be done in maybe an hour and a half. And I'm guessing we'd be done in maybe an hour and a half. Those of you who think that I memorize my sermons, I do not. I follow the teleprompter, which is now moving. Yes, good. No, it's not. These are the sorts of things I wake up worried about at 2 in the morning. Yay! Following worship, we will enjoy a potluck lunch together. It will be a joyful day of celebration, and I think I'm going to grab my cell phone maybe. I hope to see all of you next week. We're just seeing if you think we're okay now. Okay, good. Now, next week, I'm not going to offer a sermon. Our moderator, Rich Law, will do a short reflection in place of the sermon. So today is my chance to consider the state of church, the state of this church in particular. And I want to start by looking at some very amazing photos, I think at least. We'll talk about where they come from after we've seen them. Now, some of these photos that you'll see are sort of otherworldly looking, but they are not generated by AI. They are actual photographs of real art. All of these photos, all of this art comes from an annual large-scale desert event known as Burning Man. The event's name comes from its culminating ceremony, this symbolic burning of a large wooden effigy referred to as the Man. That happens each year on Saturday night of the week-long event. I was vaguely aware of something called Burning Man, but I began to learn more when Lisa's daughter Hannah and her partner Jackson told us that they were going to go to Burning Man. And like most parents who might occasionally snoop on their adult children, just kidding, I mean parents who like to learn more about what their kids enjoy, we looked into Burning Man. Burning Man is an annual week-long event focusing on self-expression and community. It takes place in the Black Rock Desert in northern Nevada. Tens of thousands of participants are referred to as burners. Burners come together to build and participate in Black Rock City, a temporary and experimental community created by and for the attending participants, the burners. Now, this past year, you might recall that there were heavy rains that resulted in some flooding. Attendees of Burning Man are off the grid, and so we couldn't just text Hannah to say, we've been hearing some disturbing media reports about the conditions at Burning Man this year. Are you okay? That's what we wanted to do. But since there's no phone signal, there is no communication. So we just had to wait and tough it out until the week was over. Turns out Hannah and Jackson had a really very meaningful time. In part, they said, because the conditions were so difficult this past year. Burners had the chance to experience the value of community, working together and supporting each other to make it through what turned out to be some challenging situations. Burning Man is guided by 10 stated principles. They're listed in your bulletin, and we'll talk about them in a moment. The first time I read about the 10 principles of Burning Man, I was struck by the commonality between Burning Man principles and church. At least the kind of church that I aspire to lead, the kind of church that I believe this church is. Hence this sermon, exploring those connections. It's titled From Playa to Pew. Playa is, of course, the Spanish word for beach. And at Burning Man, Playa refers to the remains of a dried lake bed on which Black Rock City is built. Exploring connections between Burning Man and church may seem a little bit out there to you, but stick with me. Here's why I'm doing it. Churches often are characterized by such a narrow tunnel vision outlook. It's so valuable to look outside of church to consider what's happening in our society, what's going on in our world. I mean, data clearly supports that fewer people are attending church. 50 years ago, longer, people in the United States most often found community in church and in other religious and civic member organizations, things like Rotary, Lions Club, Kiwanis. Now, all of these places are declining in engagement, just as churches are. And we needn't shy away from this reality. Why not instead investigate, ask questions, seek to learn from new ways that people are finding community, how people are brought together to learn and to grow, to do good things? So today we explore the 10 principles of Burning Man. Before we do, let me clarify. This sermon is not an unqualified endorsement of Burning Man. I don't make any value judgment either way about the event. I've never been. I don't think I ever will. At this point in my life, I am not eager to spend a week in August in the desert without air conditioning or cell phone coverage or Wi-Fi, sleeping on the ground or on a flimsy lawn chair. Nope, not for me. But there are some really wonderful and meaningful aspects to the culture created at Burning Man. As Lisa and I started to learn more about it, I asked her, would you ever want to go to Burning Man? And words cannot explain how relieved I was when she said, no, I don't think so. Let's take a look at the 10 principles of Burning Man. Burning Man co-founder Larry Harvey wrote the 10 principles in 2004 as guidelines. They were crafted not as a dictate of how people should be and act, but as a reflection of the community's ethos and culture. And as we read them, think about how these principles do or do not resonate with who we, First Congregational Church, aspire to be. Number one, radical inclusion. Anyone may be a part of Burning Man. We welcome and respect the stranger. No prerequisites exist for participation in our community. Number two, gifting. Burning Man is devoted to acts of gift giving. The value of a gift is unconditional. Gifting does not contemplate a return or an exchange for something of equal value. Decommodification. In order to preserve the spirit of gifting, the Burning Man community seeks to create social environments that are unmediated by commercial sponsorships, transactions, or advertising. We resist the substitution of consumption for participatory experience. Radical self-reliance. Burning Man encourages the individual to discover, exercise, and rely on their inner resources. Radical self-expression. Radical self-expression arises from the unique gifts of the individual. No one other than the individual or a collaborating group can determine its content. It's offered as a gift to others. 6, communal effort. The community values creative cooperation and collaboration. We strive to produce, promote, and protect social networks, public spaces, works of art, and methods of communication that support such interaction. Civic responsibility. Civil society is valued. Community members who organize events assume responsibility for public welfare and endeavor to communicate civil responsibilities to participants. All events are conducted in association with local, state, and federal laws. Leave no trace. The community respects the environment. We are committed to leaving no physical trace of our activities. We clean up after ourselves and endeavor, whenever possible, to leave land in a better state than when we found it. Participation. The Burning Man community is committed to a radically participatory ethic. We believe that transformative change, whether in the individual or in society, can occur only through the medium of deeply personal participation. We achieve being through doing. Everyone is invited to work. Everyone is invited to play. We make the world real through actions that open the heart. Immediacy. Immediate experience is, in many ways, the most important touchstone of value in our culture. We seek to overcome barriers that stand between us and a recognition of our inner selves, the reality of those around us, participation in society, and contact with a natural world exceeding human powers. No idea can substitute for this experience. Now, when we compare Playa to Pew, we find resonance with these 10 principles, as well as difference. In many ways, these principles reflect our culture, or at least the culture to which we aspire as a church. The first principle, we also welcome all to fully participate in community. There are no barriers for participation in our church. At least that is the value that we work toward. Also, like Burning Man, we offer our gifts to the community. At Burning Man, no money is exchanged. Everything is traded among participants. But like church, Burning Man is made possible by the financial contributions of participants. In the case of Burning Man, they purchase tickets to attend. Now, we don't sell tickets to church, but we do sustain our community by gifting our time, our talents, our donations. Number 3, decommodification. We also don't sell corporate sponsorships to church. Not yet, I'm just kidding. Radical self-reliance. We do seek to empower the individual, and we also encourage connection with something bigger than ourselves, a wholeness, a source that most of us call God. Number 5, radical self-expression. Well, we do encourage self-expression, for sure, although in all fairness, it's probably not quite as radical as it is at Burning Man. 6, communal effort. This one is spot on. Cooperation and collaboration are highly valued in the culture of our church. 7, civic responsibility. That's us too. If our faith means anything, it does something to better the world. Many of our members are actively engaged in efforts to better our city and beyond. Yes. 8, leave no trace. We are currently in a church-wide discernment process about how we might live more fully into our responsibility of caring for creation. We've got a long way to go to diminish our footprint on the earth, but it's something we've identified that we're working on. 9, participation. I think we're really growing into this too. So many of you are active in volunteer leadership or group engagement, or just taking on the tasks that make our church happen. Sometimes those are very humble tasks, but they're important ones. And number 10, immediacy. This resonates too. We seek to be a setting in which people can look within to our deepest selves. We believe that God is found within, not stretching for something outside of ourselves. Now, next Sunday, we'll hold our annual congregational meeting. This year, our congregation is 150 years old. There will be many opportunities to celebrate our glorious past as we look toward the future. And in that spirit of open, broad thinking and interest in the new things that are happening in our society, I want to close with a prayer, a poem. I did not write this poem. It's generated by ChatGPT. Now, I promise you that I will never use ChatGPT to generate a sermon. My words will always be my own. But today, as we consider the world as it is and seek to learn and grow from it and from all it has to offer, I thought it appropriate to share this poem. Now, you may have negative opinions about the use of artificial intelligence. And I agree, absolutely. There are some aspects that are troubling. And just as this sermon is not an unqualified endorsement of Burning Man, it is neither an unqualified endorsement of AI. Artificial intelligence, however, is here to stay. And I just generally favor being present to what is without fear or resistance, and instead try to take a beginner's mind as we encounter and learn about new possibilities. I went to ChatGPT on a whim, and this was my prompt. Write a short poem comparing Burning Man to a progressive Christian church. I had no idea what it would come up with, but this is what it gave me in about 5 seconds. In dust and flames, a city unfolds where art and spirit intermingle, bold. Not pews, but Playa, where footsteps dance, a temple of chaos, a wild, vibrant trance. Yet in the quiet hush of a church's nave, a different kind of congregation to save. Stained glass whispers stories, timeless and old, in sacred silence, tales of faith are told. The Playa's dust contrasts the polished floor, but both share seekers yearning for more. At Burning Man, a festival of the bold. In church, a refuge where stories are told. One in the desert, one in stone and wood, both seeking, I can't read that word. Yes, both seeking meaning in the greater good. Burning Man's effigy, a fiery rebirth. In church, a sermon grounding souls to earth. 2 realms apart, yet bound by a quest for connection, purpose, a heart's unrest. Burning Man and church on different planes, yet each in its own way breaks earthly chains. Friends, at our annual meeting next week, we will glance back to our 150-year history, but we'll move boldly forward into all that God has in store for our congregation. We do so trusting that God, who has been our help in ages past, remains our hope for years to come.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down. The flames went higher, and it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by world desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I sing with us. Into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down. The flames went higher, and it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire. The taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child. Oh, but the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down. The flames went higher, and it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire. So I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down. The flames went higher, and it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire.